Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ayoade Adegbite. I'm a senior data engineer at Bridge LLC. Bridge LLC is a consulting firm outside Delaware, United States, and we work with varieties of clients across different industries. I'm passionate about documentation because it is one of those things that help organizations trust their data very well, right? So this is going to be like some sort of conversation. So I want us to flow, right? Now, my topic is AI-driven documentation automation. Basically, it means that how can we leverage AI to ensure that developers are doing what they are meant to do? Because truth be told, no one will pay you for doing documentation. And that's just it, right? But you need to do it because 5 years to come, you definitely need it, right? Now, outside of what I do awesome data stuff around the world. I'm passionate about data quality. Now we are seeing AI, LLM. Most of the conversations we've been having since yesterday involves one way or the other around AI. Then organizations want to leverage AI. So they need to be able to do this with quality data. And also I'm building behind the data. So basically one of the things we are doing behind the data is newsletter, where we interview experts in the data field. How did they come to be in data in the first place? What are the things that they are doing? How did they overcome challenges and all of that? And this is not just experts within the Nigerian market space. This is worldwide, right? So we are being, right now, I think we have about 3,000 followers on Substack, and then, we are growing, right? So basically, what are documentations, right? So has anyone here ever written anything that helps somebody else to understand what you are doing? Let me say sure once. You've done something and then you write about it so that somebody else can understand what that thing is. Anybody? Okay. So you worked on a dashboard and then you write a report to send to your stakeholders. Has anybody done that? Okay. You read about something. Maybe you learned a new stuff and then you write about it on LinkedIn. Anybody has done that? Awesome. So basically, we have one way or the other come across what documentation basically is. But in a layman's term, documentation, or in terms of data projects, documentation is the manner that comes with your project, right? So documentation is, everywhere: software, data engineering, business analysis, product management, product developers, designers, and every other person has documentation of some sort. So imagine buying a new device, especially for content creators, right? My wife got this ring light that has, I don't know what they call it, like this cloth that used to cover it. And then she was trying to set it up. Unfortunately, there was no manual. So we started checking YouTube. At the end of the day, she could not use it. She had to get a new stuff. So this is what happens when you work on a project and there is no way for people to make use of it. One of the sessions, I think that should be Olumide, mentioned something about building for people. When you build, you need to have a way that people will understand what is it that you have done. And that's what documentation basically helps you to do. So why do we talk about documentation? Why does it matter basically? I'm going to look at it from the data aspect and then bring it across the entire organization. So for data engineers, basically, it helps us to speed onboarding process and handing overs. So you've worked on a project. For data engineers now, we work across teams, right? So meaning that today you are working for marketing guys, next tomorrow you are working for the sales guys, right? And you don't want to be stiff to one unit. So it helps to ensure that, data are properly handed over. For analysts, these guys are always asking questions, right? They want to understand what does a particular column means, because when they are presenting, they want to be able to say, when you click on this thing in your Tableau dashboard or in your Power BI dashboard, and it shows, boom, this data was gotten from Kaggle, these are what the column means and all of those things, right? They also need to be able to back up what is it that they are presenting to their stakeholders, right? Then for business stakeholders, these guys are always like, can we export everything to Excel, right? And because they want to export it to Excel, they need to even understand what it is that you're exporting to Excel, right? So it helps them to make dashboards more interpretable. It helps them to build trust in the data that you are presenting to them. And then for third-party users or external folks, imagine you are trying to connect to an API and there is no documentation about how to use that API, even though that API is useful for you, right? So this is where we ensure that other systems are able to integrate the products that we are building, right? And for the organization as a whole, this ensures that if you leave that company tomorrow, the HR will not be calling you that the projects that you worked on where you were with them, they are not able to, they are not able to continue. There was one of our clients that when they onboarded me, we had to start the whole pipeline from scratch, right? Not because what the previous engineer did was not useful, but because nobody within the organization have an insight into what was happening. All they knew was that data was coming from somewhere and they are seeing it in their dashboard. So how the tools integrate with one another, nobody really knows, right? So when I joined this particular client, I have, let's say, knack for always wanting to ensure that if I work on a project and I leave you guys today, you will not need to call my manager to say, hey, your boy that you sent to us to come and do on this thing, can we get him to quickly jump on a call? We need to fix a problem, right? I always ensure that my projects are well detailed and documented. So when I joined this organization, they use DBT, right? Is anybody familiar with DBT? Any data analyst here? No data analyst. Oh, that's good. Okay, so I have 2 data analysts. Any data engineer? No data engineer. Okay. So now for analytics engineer, basically we sit between data engineers and the data analysts. So instead of doing data transformation, what's not, we take that hat, right? We talk more with the business stakeholders, understand what you as an analyst need, tell the data engineer that, you know what, just take this data and drop it here. We'll take it from there, basically. And one of the tools, right, that we use is DBT, right? So DBT basically just allows data analysts, data engineers to build reusable data models. Basically, just call it tables. Now, you write queries almost every month to send your monthly reports, right? If somebody should delete one column from that table that you are using, you know that your report is dead. It will not work again, right? But how can we trace the tables that are depending on your dashboard? There is no way to do it with your traditional SQL. And these are one of the things that DBT sort of brings in. Now, what is DBT in short? Basically, it's called Data Build Tool, and it's like the pandas library in your Python, but now for SQL. And it's not just DBT that is out there. We have SQL Mesh, we have Dataform. Now, Dataform right now is basically integrated into BigQuery ecosystem. So you cannot use it outside of BigQuery, but the remaining 2, you can use them outside of, with any data warehouse. And something funny is happening in the data space right now. One company, Fivetran, has bought both DBT and SQL Mesh, right? So they want to take over the transformational layer, which is where the money is right now. Data are coming in, we are extracting this data, we are dumping it somewhere, but businesses would need proper transformation in order to be able to make good use of this data to make informed business decisions or even build AI tools, right? Now, this was the first thing I noticed when I joined is that many of the data models, that is the tables that they are building, right, has either no documentation or the documentation is not complete. So maybe out of 20 columns, only 10 are commented. And then the developer felt like, oh, I can't be wasting my time. They will not pay me. What they will pay me is how many tickets was I able to close this sprint, right? So they move on. But no one really saw it as a problem. I mean, I just joined like maybe 2 months and I've already started seeing this as a problem. But nobody saw it as a problem until when one of our technical stakeholders engaged the analyst team on a project. And then we had this simple message in our Slack channel. Is there a dictionary for this table? Because I need to understand what I'm doing. This guy, I can't just jump up tables together and send it to him, right? And this simple message caused a lot of problem. Not like somebody getting fired, but it caused a lot of problem that we're doing both Zoom meeting, Google Meet, Slack or do, like for like the whole week, to even first understand who built this table, when was it built, what is happening, why was there no documentation, and all of that. So along the line, we decided that, okay, what should we do, right? This should not be a problem because that is what they are paying my company for. If we cannot solve problem for them, then they can just let me go. And my company will be like, Ayoade, you made us lose this client. So you might have to take pay cuts, right? But I don't want to do that. So now, what we want to achieve is that we want to make documentation complete so that no model goes to production without a detailed documentation. So write about it, what columns are there, what is the business logic behind each of these columns that are in those tables. We want to make sure that those are there. We also want to ensure that all columns are documented. We don't care if it is the same column that you have across 5 different tables that you still have in another table. Document it, right? Then we also want to automate everything because, I mean, it's too manual and it's not rewarding. Next month, when they are doing appraisal, nobody will say, oh, because Tola does a lot of documentation when she works on any project, let's add to her salary. No, they believe that that does not help them to drive any business decision. And it's true. It doesn't help them to drive any business decision. The only thing that it does is it helps you, it helps who is coming, it helps your team members, and, literally helps the organization on the long run. That reminds me of Jason. So we joined and actually we had to drop them, right? It's a banking industry, right? And Jason is like the only person that knows everything about this organizational data, like the entire thing from ingestion to transformation. All they just do is just say, hey, we need this thing, and Jason will provide it. Now, the management team started getting concerned that if tomorrow Jason won Visa lottery and Jason decided that, I'm not working for you people again, no, and Jason is gone, it means that the entire banking operation will be grounded for, like, I don't know, maybe till they get somebody to bring it up. So they brought us on board, right, to come and help them. And Jason literally just frustrated that whole effort. And we had to leave. That one is story for another day. Now, so how do we want to go about what we want to achieve? We want to do it in 5 steps, basically, right? And this is where most of our conversations now rally around. So first, we want to ensure that, we are designing a system that, should we do the manual way that you guys have been doing, but this time around, ensure that developers are doing it. You must document your model. I don't care if it is 50 columns. You must do it, right? Or should we, just use DBT being one of the tools in the data transformational feed? Can we connect it to AI and then help us to bridge the documentation gap? So, of course, we could not go with the former option because that's what they've been doing and it's not working. But now, we want to go with, building a security sort of checks into every single model that you are building, such that immediately you do git commit, the system flags it and check the documentation for that particular model, if it is complete or if it is not complete, right? If it is complete, it allows you to go, right? Go and do what you want to do. But if not, it tells you that go back and comment this thing, right? Which was like the manual approach that we want to do, even though we're setting this security feature in, right? But we decided to go with something else. So first thing is that we want to detect the models that have been modified with the DBT metadata. So when you are doing git commit, right? When you do git add, what happens is that git takes everything that you have done, the files that you have committed and stuff, save it in a bucket. So we want to read from that bucket every model or anything that you have updated. Maybe it's a model, maybe it's a YAML file. We want to know it. Then the second thing that we want to do is that model that you have now modified, we'll take it and then check the documentation of that model. So is it up to date? Is the column all documented or not? And if they are not all documented, we take those missing columns, right? And we send it to Gemini that, take this thing and write the description for it. But you can't just send the column to Gemini and tell it to generate description. How will it generate the right description for that model, right, or for that column? So we need to pass in the business context, the SQL file that was written, and all of those things, so that Gemini will understand why I am writing this description and how to get a good description. Then the next thing is that now that AI has generated this thing, you don't just push it. We still need to validate that this guy have actually given us a correct thing. So this is where the business stakeholders now come in. The person that requested for the model, the BRD that was designed, and then the engineer. So you come together, ensure that this documentation is actually what it should be, right? And last but not the least, now you can now, commit your code, and then you are good to go, right? So now, how does it all work in? That's like the theoretical part. In the real aspect, how does it work? So this is you. You are done. Maybe you have a model, right? And you remove a column from it. So Tola said, you know what? In Tableau, we need to add a new column. And the column is the date of purchase that customers placed order for this item. We want to check how many orders we are receiving on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, and then, hourly basis. So which means that you need to go back to the table that you have created for Tola and now add order date to it. So you added the order date to the model, to the table that you have built for Tola. Now, what happened is that we now have a batch script that basically goes into your bucket. When you do git add, goes into that bucket and then look for the model that you have modified. So when it sees this thing, what it does is that it now goes into the DBT documentation. So one of the beautiful things with DBT is that whatever it is that you are doing, it helps you to keep like a track record of what you are doing. So for this project, we use the catalog and manifest. So the catalog is how your table is presently looking like in your database. So if in your database you have just 5 columns in the table that you have built for Tola, catalog we only have 5 columns, right? But you see, manifest is what your table used to be. So maybe now your table that has 5 columns now, if you added a new column to it, when you do DBT docs generate, that guy will become 6 columns. So now your catalog has 5 columns, your manifest has 6 columns. So meaning that one column is basically missing, right? So when it sees this, we now run the document percentage checker. So in this document percentage checker script, we put the what is it called now? The percentage to be 100, right? We want all documentations to be commented. Document the whole thing, right? So now if the system checks and all of your documents or all of your columns basically are documented, then it allows you to just commit your code and then you can do git push and send your code to the production and they can review and merge. But if not, this is where it's now interesting. So what we do is that if there is even just one column that is missing, what this will do is that it will now take that column name, the query that was used for that particular model, right? The model name. So the model name sort of helps the LLM to understand what the query in that whole thing is even all about. So maybe the model name is fact sales. It understands that, okay, this is talking about sales information, right? So when I add all that data into it, it gives it more context to be able to say, oh, okay, this is talking about the date that these sales actually happen, right? So we take all of those context and then we pass it to Gemini. So this passing it to Gemini and generating content, we did a lot of tweaking, right? Basically prompt engineering, tried different approaches. At first, it was just, just giving us generic elements. So we started passing in more context. Okay, at first, we just took the model name and the missing column, right? That didn't give us exactly what we need. So we now added the query, which is the code now that you are using to actually create the entire table, added it to it, and then that gave it more context to even give us a description that, more useful. Then we feed this to Gemini, and then that creates the description for the columns that are missing. Now, after doing that, basically, it saves it back to the documentation that we have initially. So this works in 2 ways. if a documentation is already existing, so let's say Toller's table now has 4 columns documented out of 5 columns. Now, Gemini is generating 1 more column. So it will take that 1 more column that it has generated and then add it to the existing documentation. So that makes it 5, meaning that the whole model is now well documented. But in a scenario where there is no documentation at all, what the model will now do is that it will now generate the entire 5 description, right, for each of those columns. So now, once that is done, it saves this, and this is where the developer now and the business stakeholders can now review this description in particular, to be able to get, this reflects actually what we are looking for. And once that is done, you can push to your PR, and then your PR can be merged if your table is actually giving out the correct information, basically, right? Now, to now ensure all of these things, right? I mean, this is all manual. So each block, we are testing them separately to be sure that, this is working. This is working the right way. This is working the right way, and, we are getting all of the information. But now, that's even work. Imagine you took about 2 hours to troubleshoot a particular table. Now you have figured it out. Then, but because the company wants you to document, you are spending another roughly 1 hour, 30 minutes running each script to be able to get that, my model are well documented, everything is fine. So to do this, we use something called pre-commit. So what pre-commit does is that it allows you to set rules, especially when you are working with, a lot of teams, and you guys need to send your code to GitHub. Somebody will review before they merge to the production database. Now, we don't want you to be running your documentation check when you have pushed your code to GitHub. We want you to run it on your system before you send it to us. So the beans that you are cooking. If it is beans that the whole company will eat and all of us will start purging, or if it is beans that we'll eat and then we say, we want this guy to cook another beans, right? So we use pre-commit. What this does is that we ensure that anything that you want to do, this rule applies for every single thing that you are doing. So now, the pipeline is ready. We are now ready to present to the stakeholders so that they can see what we have done. And then, Gaga, that thing that happened when you have tests and, do everything in the middle of the night, the whole thing is blazing. And then in the morning when you are presenting, you are saying, can you see my screen? I say, yes, we can see your screen. And then you start, and then the first error is this file cannot be found. so that happened, right? So that's why I said, let's demolar this pipeline, right? Now, what did we start with? So we updated this particular model. It was like, now any model that is good, it means that these are models that are critical to the business, right? They are the ones that the analysts are mostly using. So we started our testing from there. So we modified this good customer order item. Basically, what it means is that we have a single record for each customer, for each item that they have bought from us, right? So now, this checks the documentation for that model, and you can see, out of 86 columns, only 13 has documentation, right? 73 is missing. That's crazy. So imagine now, next tomorrow now, maybe these people now, my company find another client that is paying better, and they said, Ayo, we love what you are doing. You come and take on these clients. And I left these people. And then they now call my manager that your boy created one model that has 86 columns, and he only commented 13 because it's too much, actually, for me to be commenting manually. So now, it failed. You can see that failed thing. So, which means that this thing is never going to get to the, I'm not even going to be able to create a PR for this, for anybody to review, right? So, it failed, right? Then, we now, so after failing, basically, what it did was that it's proceeding to, to generate the missing columns. And it did. And after that, it says, so the documentation is now saved, right, somewhere. Now, that was us testing for a model that does not have complete documentation. Now, for a model that has, so now we now went to go and look at it, that, okay, let's see that, okay, maybe this actually did generate those missing columns. On the right-hand side is the new documentation that Gemini AI generated for us, and on the right-hand side is the original, documentation that was existing before. But if you see, you can see like there are differences between the two. On the right-hand side, one has data type variable, right? On the other side, the other one doesn't have data type because it was becoming more complex. Now with DBT, you can set a lot of data quality constraints on every single column of your table. So, but we don't want to like do too much with Gemini. Just help us with the description, right? Any other testing that needs to be set, the developer can set that. But those are one of the things that we are now looking on advancing on maybe next year, right? But we now went again to go and pick a model that actually has a complete documentation to be sure that we tested both backward and and forward, and ensure that our pipeline is actually working as it's supposed to be working. And then we can see that it says that, oh, we modified this particular model. It checked the documentation, and then you can see that it says that all the columns in that model are actually documented. So there's no need for me to do any documentation again. So it skipped that and then allow us to basically just commit our code and then open a PR, right? Now, out of all of these things, maybe I'm the one that they should be thanking that, thank you for helping us to solve this problem, but that was not the case, right? But one of the things was that after that, we now ensure that no model goes into production without being documented. We now have improved collaboration between the engineering team and the business team, because now they understand what are the things that needs to be done, right? When you're also creating your BRD, you also include things about the columns that you want, and give us some improvement on that. And last but not the least, documentation now became a non-negotiable quality check. So aside ensuring that a column is not null, a column is unique and stuff, for us as a business, we now ensure that the model that you are building must always have documentation. But out of all of these things, there are good things and there are bad things. What are the bad things or the things that we could have improved on? Is first, handling business logic. Now, if for a particular column now, the business logic changed, maybe we now added the discounts to a particular column, right? Maybe we have sales times quantity now plus, or maybe times discounts. How do we ensure that this now reflects in the documentation? There is no way for that to happen, because to the pipeline, this column already has documentation, right? So nothing is changing, basically. So there is no way for that, to automatically update, right? Or to flag and say, oh, the description that I have for this thing is not reflecting the actual business logic, right? Then there is no way for us to also, prevent placeholder descriptions, right? Part of the things that we flagged was if you use empty blank in your description, just like we saw in the earlier one, right? That has empty blank. The pipeline will flag it. But when you do ... there is no way for us to flag that, right? So which means that people can still go ahead and still, put whatever thing they want in the documentation, and the system will see it as, oh, this column actually has description, right? And last but not the least, the human verification gap. So there are some, just like, I think it was still Olumide that says some people will join call and they will not put on their mic, right? We have business stakeholders like that you are the one that is requesting for something and the developer is reaching out to you to get more context, and you will not respond on time. And time is going because I need to close this ticket in this sprint. So developer will go ahead and work on it, right? So we are working with the assumption that both the stakeholders and the developer will always, work hand in hand. And those are like the things that we leave out. So what are the key takeaways basically? Is documentation is the foundation of data trust. There is no way you want to grow data quality that documentation will not be found. Automation also ensure completeness without, creating burdens on whoever is in charge. And last but not least, AI is a partner, not a replacement. Just like I think Badibo, the first panel session, says that learn how to use AI, but don't let it make you dumber, right? right? So you can, follow me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and what's not. And last but not least, please don't ask me hard questions. I don't like answering hard questions. But please, if anybody has questions, this will be the right time to ask. Thank you for listening to me. Any question, please? My time is up. I did not see it too.
What?
Any question? Okay. Thank you all for listening to me. See you next day. Bye.
Thank you so much, Ayoade. Please let's give him a round of applause.